Our positioning in Sandton is very favorable. It's very close to the Sandton Central Business District. It's surrounded by a hospital, which is very close to the development itself. We're around within 500 meters of the site. We've got 3 schools, and we a stone's throw away from the high train station, and in the center of all the financial, we're in the financial heart of the African continent. So we are really considered the New York of Africa here. So our positioning here is very favorable. We are the largest mixed-use development outside of Sandton City, in Sandton area. So in our mixed-use development, we've got a lot of commercial space. We've got retail, which will consist of coffee shops, restaurants, convenience stores, a large piazza, which is about 5,000 square meters in size, and we've got a lot of retail, residential space in this development, which is primarily a residential node. So the facilities are all lends itself for live, work, and play development. Our business started as Lushaka Construction 45 years ago by my late father. He started that construction business. And 12 years ago, we started our development business, which is called Lushaka Investments. So we've been in this market for a long time, 45 years, and then of course the development business 12 years ago. And since then, we've been very active in the area. We'll be entering now the 4th development in so many years. The total cost of this development, because it's made up of 3 phases, the first phase being the office building and the World Trade Center, we have already had a favorable return on investment on the first phase. The second phase of the development will be costing around 600 million, and the ultimate value afterwards will be about 1.2, almost 1.25 billion rands in terms of total value. And in the third phase, we estimate the cost to be around 750 million, with a valuation of about 1.6. So all in all, we're looking at a total value created in these 3 phases of about 3.5 billion rands, of which the total cost is about 1.4 billion rands in total cost of development. From a distance point of view, we are within a 1 kilometer of the High train station, which is considered the center of Sandton, right? So from our position, that position, we are very close. And like I said earlier, our position to our location relative to the hospital, to 3 schools, within this area, in less than a kilometer, we've got 4 shopping centers. So and we're just down the road from the financial center. The JSE is within 1 kilometer of this development. And we've got all the big major banks within the same 1,000-meter radius from here. So our position is absolutely fantastic, and we will then be, we are in a very good position to offer what the market's looking for. Position these days is very important because of people want to live, work, and play in the same location. We had originally started this development in 2008. We then finished the first phase at the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, which is the World Trade Center office building. We had to stop the development in 2011 in order for us to, because of the financial crisis, a lot of the fundings from banks were pulled back because everybody was, very concerned about the financial state of the world. So we were then in a position, we had to go and resolve our financial position with the bank, which we resolved after 2 years, which took us 2 years to fill up the building, lease it out completely. We then sold the building to SA Corp in 2013, and then we re-looked at the development going forward, which is the second phase, called Central Square Phase 2. So the kind of obstacles we had really was, in the middle of this development, we had the financial crisis to deal with. And it's been a bit challenging, especially in 2011, 2012, and 2013, in unlocking this development in terms of selling the project, because banks were not lending to buyers that wanted to buy apartments. So that also was a blessing in disguise, because it allowed us to, in 2014, to relook at the development and redesign it to cater for the changing demands of the market. So yes, there was delays, but at the same time, it's provided us an opportunity to relook at the development and refocus and develop something completely unique now, which is something we're very proud of. So the project has evolved, and it has evolved for the better. In the Sandton market traditionally, and I think very similar to what happens all over the world, one of the big factors is especially in a node, a major city like Sandton, which follows very much the same as what New York does, Paris, London, those financial centers of the world. Generally, the commercial and office areas or space that gets developed and grows, residential generally tails behind it. So we have seen in Sandton over the last couple of years an increased number of square meters being added to the commercial area. It's logical to see that residential will have to catch up to that demand. So they're generally counter-cyclical to each other. So that's one big factor. Second of all, the percentage or the ratio of residential units to commercial area in Sandton is certainly under-catered for. So we are still in a growing residential market where the number of residential units to the number of square meters of commercial space, even so there's still a lag in delivery of the residential units, there's still an amount or a ratio that still needs to be met to fulfill the requirements of residential space. So the two factors will support the growth or the demand for residential units in the Sandton market. Or for us as Lushaga Investments, the financial crisis was certainly an experience where you would have to refocus and look at other ways of funding a project. Development is very fund. If you have to raise the necessary capital to unlock a project like this. So we had to go back to the drawing board a number of times to find ways, creative ways, to find the funding to fund this project, which is where Mercantile Bank came in as a very strong partner that creatively solved the funding problem that we had. And that is generally in South Africa, banks will require developers to sell at least 80 to 90% of the development before they actually press the button on funding the project. So what tends to happen is the developer then has to sell out the bulk of his development, and then he's left with very little stock to recover his profit, because of course they want to get the project going. Whereas with the kind of solutions that we've come up with, Mercantile Bank has come up with, is that we've sold a big chunk of stock, and we've now been able to draw down funding to start the project, so that we are able to then unlock further value as the project progresses. So we don't give up the best, most profitable aspects of the development in favor of just managing security for banks. So our experience there has been how to structure deals of this nature, and especially that we've now looked at ways in which we could expand our delivery capability beyond our local Johannesburg or Sandton reach. We're looking at developing in other areas of South Africa, as well as neighboring countries, because there's lots of opportunities in those markets. So it's really that we've grown in experience in how to structure deals with funding partners, with contractors, and how to manage those relationships. So that experience life cycle, from the acquisition of land to applying for rights and working with government, to raising finance, to delivering the project, and in a competitive market, has provided for an enormous amount of experience and knowledge on how to navigate a difficult financial period during the 2010-2011 financial crunch, and still come out 3-4 years later with a better product, with a far better funding mechanism to develop, to unlock our project. So yes, there's been an enormous amount of experience gained by our organization. New land in the area is very limited. There aren't pieces of land like the one that we've purchased in 2008. So it is at a premium. If you are going to be purchasing land in the Sandton CBD area, it'll come at a very high price, and generally you would have to buy out existing buildings or developments or sectional title schemes, which becomes very expensive. So anybody coming into this market, the barrier to entry is to acquire the land and perhaps even change the rights, which you might have some obstacles in getting. So already, straight off the cuff, you are at a cost disadvantage to acquire land in the Sandton market. And you would generally have to land bank it for some time in order for you to start getting the benefits, because the market will eventually catch up in terms of economic growth to be able to cover the cost of construction and delivering a product within a reasonable time frame. Sandton is going through a very big office space growth. There's a number of commercial buildings coming up, and the projects that are currently being developed and have developed over the last 2 years and into the next 3 to 4 years, you've got over 1 million square meters of commercial space coming online, of primarily commercial space. So there's a big demand for residential units to support that commercial space. And our competitors, we've got a number of buildings in the area that will be competing with us from a residential point of view, but mainly out of those buildings, the majority of them are for rental market only, not for homeowners like our development. So we are in for some competition, but our price points and our price competitiveness is enabling us to outsell our competitors. So the commercial trends are, you generally have multinationals coming into the Sandton market, and those multinationals are companies like Sanlam, Old Mutual, Standard Bank is building an office here. You've got Sasol moving into Sandton. You've got a new building of Discovery Health coming into that's been redeveloped in Sandton for additional space, so they're growing their office space footprint in Sandton. You generally have Alexander Forbes has now developed or built a whole new building for their main office. So from a corporate point of view, all of South Africa's biggest and wealthiest companies have made Sandton their home. So certainly Sandton is becoming more and more a financial capital of Africa. Well, primarily the Gautrain bus system is currently passing by very close to our development, so we are discussing with Gautrain bus operators to perhaps divert their bus service to go around or to stop at our precinct. So that's a big public transport benefit that we're looking at providing to the development. Second of all, we are going to be offering as standard offering to all our residents and retail and commercial customers or clients a shuttle service that will be taking people to the Gautrain station and to various points in Sandton. So we'll have Central Square will have its own shuttle service to cater for the requirements of the owners or the residents. So, and then thirdly, the proximity of this development enables people to even walk to buildings or to different nodes in Sandton without having to catch public transport. So the whole objective is for us to develop this in a way that minimizes people's requirements for using their own transport, taking cars off the street, off the road, and using the various options that we've got available. Well, the first one in the area was Amazonas, which was 50 apartments. We finished that in 2005. It was sold out successfully in 6 months. That is across the road from the World Trade Center building. The second development in the area was Sunset Towers, which was 104 apartments. That was sold or delivered in 2007 and essentially sold out in 10 months. We then, right adjacent to Sunset Towers was the Central Square site, and we then developed with the World Trade Center building, finished that in the beginning of 2011. So besides our construction experience and success, these 3 projects that have been successfully built, delivered, sold out, puts us in a very good position to do the same with the Central Square development that we've just started again. Our experience is generally within the residential market, because we've built a lot more residential units and apartments and buildings for residential purposes. But Central Square has enabled us to gain experience in developing commercial buildings and some retail space. But in the delivery of the second phase, Central Square's second phase, we'll be offering or delivering a lot more retail space and adding to our residential experience. So all in all, I think we've certainly mastered delivery of residential units or apartments more on the medium to high-end scale of the market, and that's where we generally have been most successful in as developers.